Fuck me with it, put the letters to the sky. Hey, I make sex when I got millions on my mind. Hey, tell me when I wasn't, I could put it to the side. Hey, falling sense of baby, there's a sin in my eyes. My mama calls, see you on TV, sex and shit.
Post Malone didn't exactly start in obscurity, but even at his peak, there was always a tension between cool musician and internet's favorite dad. His early hits, like White Iverson, had this effortless charisma, like it just stumbled into fame while looking like he barely tried. Fans latched on to that messy, charming energy, and it worked for a minute. But fast forward a few years, and that same charm started tipping into laziness. The effortless persona began to feel like, I don't care, and people noticed. The tattoos, the unkempt hair, the permanent expression of mild confusion. It went from aesthetic to apathy. Even his collaborations, which once felt exciting, began to feel like cash grabs, from the Sway Lee features to endless trap-pop hooks. His production choices increasingly sounded cookie-cutter, like he was repeating a formula he didn't even enjoy making. Social media amplified this perception. Every backstage photo and TikTok clip became evidence of declining effort. Fans who once defended his quirks now question his artistry. And then there's the live shows, once known for energy, now criticized for mumbling and forgetting lyrics. Critics started noticing Post was coasting on a persona rather than crafting something meaningful. The internet, which had made him a star, now turned its attention to his flaws. Every new release sparked debates over whether he was still relevant. And all of this brings us to the first problem. Post Malone, for all his early hype, began looking like a celebrity who stopped caring about the music. The lyrics crisis. If you listen to Stoney and then compare it to Austin or 12 Karat Toothache, you start to hear a pattern. The lyrics aren't just lazy, they're repetitive. Early Post had hooks that stuck, but now it's often empty phrases stitched together. Lines meant to be deep feel like they were generated by a TikTok lyric bot. He once wrote about the struggles of fame, money, and heartbreak with a relatable honesty. Now it's all woozy party life or random brand name drops. And let's be real, writing, "I got red bottoms on, they looking at me" in a melancholic voice isn't exactly profound. Collaborators probably noticed too, because many tracks feel like they were half-written in a studio 15 minutes before recording. Even fans admit it. The melodies are catchy, but the verses lack any bite. It doesn't help that he leans heavily on mumble singing, blurring words into a haze of indistinction. In trying to maintain that laid-back, cool image, he sacrificed cleverness and depth. Social media posts about his lyrics only amplify the problem. People dissect lines for comedy rather than admiration. Critics, once hesitant to be harsh, began openly calling out songs as generic and uninspired. Even TikTok trends, which used to boost him, now highlight the cringiest bars. A chorus can go viral while the verses flop, and Post seems okay with that. He's caught in a loop, popularity without substance. And this loop slowly erodes credibility, turning him from a respected artist into a memeable figure. The lyrics crisis isn't just creative, it's cultural.
Swag. If you fuck with the music, that's awesome. If you don't, die.
The overexposure trap. Here's where things really start to unravel. Post Malone went from underground hitmaker to omnipresent fixture on every playlist, ad, and festival lineup. At first, this level of exposure was thrilling. He was everywhere, and people loved it. But the constant ubiquity has consequences, especially when your music is starting to feel formulaic. Overexposure turns charm into annoyance. Every new single gets compared not just to his old hits, but also to the flood of copycats he inspired. Collaborations that once felt strategic now feel desperate, like he's grabbing for relevance instead of making art. Even his aesthetic, once iconic, now looks mass-produced. The same messy hair, the same tattoos, the same tired cowboy hat repeated in every public appearance. Fans scroll past photos without a second glance because it's always the same image recycled. The internet, once a support system, now feels like a magnifying glass on every flaw. Streams remain high, but respect declines. Critics argue that he's become a caricature of himself, and while some would say he's still making hits, the hits themselves are losing cultural weight. Fame without evolution becomes stagnant, and Post is a textbook example. Being everywhere doesn't equal being relevant. It often just equals being tolerated. The overexposure trap has turned a once enigmatic artist into background noise. And this, in many ways, sets the stage for the next problem. The persona is crumbling, and the public sees it.
I'm a musician.
Okay.
And I'm a writer, so, I have to write my own lyrics and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I was sitting down writing, and I thought about how everyone loves like entendres.
Okay.
So, I took a piece of my aunt's hair and I cloned her, and I had double entendres. Thank you.
Clap it up, clap it up.
Thank you so
right,
much.
guys.
And that's about my time. So,
All right. Everyone give it up for Post Malone. Was it?
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Post Malone, yeah.
Persona problems. Post Malone's image used to feel effortless, but now it's starting to crack under the weight of constant scrutiny. The same tattoos that once looked mysterious now just scream, "I haven't changed in 5 years." Fans notice the same chains, the same oversized hoodies, and the same tired grin. He's no longer an enigma, he's a brand, and brands are rarely loved. Public appearances, once charmingly chaotic, now come off as scripted and robotic. Interviews show a Post who seems like he's playing a character rather than being himself. TikTok clips highlight awkward moments, missed cues, confused expressions, and cringe dance moves. Social media magnifies these tiny failures into global jokes. Even his casual, relatable persona now feels performative. The charm of unpredictability is gone, replaced by over-polished laziness. When he tries to joke, it lands flat. When he tries to be serious, it feels forced. Collaborations feel less organic, like everyone's just checking boxes. He once embodied authenticity, now he's the poster child for celebrity fatigue. Fans who once defended him have turned critical, calling him out for trying too hard to be casual. And this persona problem isn't just cosmetic, it affects how his music is received. The feature fiascos. One of Post Malone's biggest issues now is his reliance on features that add nothing. In the past, collaborations elevated him. Sway Lee on Sunflower, Quavo on Congratulations. Now it feels like a checklist of trending artists rather than a creative choice. Some tracks include multiple features, none of whom bring fresh energy, turning songs into cluttered messes. Fans notice the formula. Post sings the same chorus, guest rappers repeat the same trap verse, and the song barely changes from one track to the next. Even high-profile collaborations, like with Doja Cat or Roddy Ricch, feel like safe bets rather than inspired artistry. It's almost as if the features exist to distract from weak verses or lazy hooks. Critics argue that he's coasting on the popularity of others instead of growing himself. The internet notices patterns like this immediately, with memes highlighting repetitive collaborations. The same producers, the same vocal effects, the same beats, it becomes exhausting. Even his signature auto-tune now feels like a crutch, masking a lack of innovation. Features that should excite end up disappointing fans who expected more. Social media commentary often frames these tracks as same post, different guest. The strategy might maintain streams, but it erodes credibility. And ultimately, relying on others to carry songs contributes to the idea that Post Malone isn't evolving. Streaming stardom versus cultural respect. Post Malone's streaming numbers remain absurdly high, but numbers aren't everything. Popularity doesn't equal respect, and it certainly doesn't equal artistry. On Spotify, millions play his tracks daily, but cultural critics have started sidelining him. Music journalists point out that chart domination is hollow when the songs themselves lack lasting impact. Longtime fans notice a disconnect. The Post they admired for originality has been replaced by repetitive hooks and predictable themes. The internet mocks him for catchy but shallow lyrics, labeling him the mumble pop king. TikTok trends often use his music ironically, highlighting how it's more meme than masterpiece. Even award shows treat him cautiously, giving nominations but rarely serious praise. Collaborators admit he's talented, but sometimes uninspired in the studio, doing the minimum to maintain relevance. Music forums debate whether his career is sustained by skill or just algorithmic luck. The respect he once commanded from peers is fading. Critiques emphasize that Post is good at branding himself, but not at creating timeless art. Cultural respect is hard to reclaim once lost, and Post is starting to feel the consequences. Popularity alone can't shield him from being called out. And as the line between commercial success and artistic credibility blurs, it becomes clear that Post Malone's current trajectory prioritizes streams over substance. The lyric slide. Post Malone's lyrics have been on a slow decline, and it's hard to ignore. Early tracks had charm, clever metaphors, catchy phrasing, and relatable storytelling. Now, verses feel recycled, like he's running the same ideas through a lazy filter. Lines about heartbreak, partying, or designer brands feel shallow when stacked against his earlier material. Even when trying to be introspective, it comes off forced, like he's reading from a template rather than expressing real emotion. Fans have started dissecting lyrics online and pointing out the obvious cliches. Songs that should resonate emotionally often land as comedic fodder. TikTok commentary and meme culture only amplify this perception, highlighting the most cringe-worthy moments. Lyrics that once felt authentic now feel performative, written to satisfy algorithmic trends rather than artistic intent. Collaborators have hinted in interviews that Post sometimes phones in verses, leaving hooks to carry the track. Critics now question whether he's capable of genuine artistry or just catchy repetition. Even his occasional heartfelt tracks like Circles now get overshadowed by repetitive themes. His early narrative about fame and personal struggle has been replaced with superficial party tales. And in a genre that prizes authenticity, this lyrical laziness is fatal. The once respected wordsmith is now a caricature of his former self. The public behavior problem. Post Malone's image problems extend beyond the music. His public persona, once seen as charmingly chaotic, now feels inconsistent and performative. Red carpets, interviews, and festival appearances often show him disengaged, distracted, or visibly irritated. Fans notice the same sleepy expressions, and social media clips turn these into memes instantly. Even small interactions like signing autographs or posing for photos occasionally go viral for the wrong reasons. Partying antics, once seen as endearing rock star behavior, now look like attempts to cling to relevance. Stories of backstage disorganization and delayed performances don't help. Critics argue that his behavior sends a message. The fame matters more than the craft. And when fans start questioning your priorities, it becomes harder to maintain credibility. Interviews show glimpses of the old Post, but they're increasingly overshadowed by public gaffes. Social media amplifies every misstep, making even minor slip-ups a global talking point. Meme culture loves him, but rarely for the right reasons. Casual viewers perceive him as a celebrity lost in his own hype. The result? The aura of authenticity he once had is slipping away. And in an industry that thrives on persona, this erosion is catastrophic. Meme culture and mockery. The internet can make or break a star. And for Post Malone, it's mostly been breaking. Once beloved for his relatability and quirky persona, he's now a frequent subject of memes and viral jokes. TikTok trends often use his songs ironically, turning lyrics into punchlines rather than praise. Even casual fans can't separate the joke from the music. Every new release is met with a mixture of clicks and eye rolls. Twitter threads dissect his outfits, tattoos, and facial expressions, all in sarcastic detail. Instagram stories repost awkward moments, emphasizing the contrast between cool star and tired celebrity. YouTube commentary channels have entire series mocking his tracks, appearances, and public behavior. Even collaborations that should generate hype are often met with ridicule online. Some fans admit they still enjoy the music, but the cultural perception overshadows the content. Meme culture, once playful, has hardened into a critique of everything Post does. He tries to play along, sometimes leaning into the jokes himself, but it rarely lands. Self-aware humor is one thing, but constant public mockery erodes reputation over time. This has turned what should be viral success into a double-edged sword. And as the memes multiply, Post's credibility in serious music discussions declines. The same internet that built him up now laughs at him endlessly for reasons entirely his own making. The trend-chasing trap. Post Malone has always had an ear for trends, but lately it's become painfully obvious. Early on, he blended hip-hop, rock, and pop seamlessly. Now it feels like he's chasing what's popular each week. One week it's trap, the next it's pop-punk, the week after it's country vibes, whatever algorithm promises streams. Collaborators adapt to the trend, making songs sound generic and safe rather than innovative. Even casual listeners notice the shift. Songs start to feel like filler rather than statements. Social media amplifies this perception, with TikTok trends often pointing out how he copies styles from younger, edgier artists. Fans have begun referring to him as a trend recycler, highlighting his diminishing originality. Music critics echo the sentiment, noting that he's lost the risk-taking spirit that made him exciting. His attempts at genre hopping sometimes land, but often they feel half-baked and disjointed. Even his signature hooks feel formulaic, built to satisfy streaming metrics rather than artistic vision. Industry insiders quietly criticize him for relying on what works online instead of pushing boundaries. The over-reliance on trends undermines credibility, making it harder for listeners to take him seriously. The same songs that go viral today will be forgotten tomorrow, leaving posts stuck chasing fleeting hype. And in a landscape that values authenticity, this strategy backfires spectacularly. What was once his strength, versatility, now reads as indecisiveness and laziness. Attempts at serious music. Post Malone tries, occasionally, to show depth, but it often misses the mark. Songs like Circles and I Fall Apart hint at vulnerability, but newer tracks, attempting emotional weight, feel overdone. The lyrics attempt profundity, but land flat, like he's reading from a script of sad life experiences rather than living them. Even collaborations intended for serious audiences sometimes feel staged, calculated for critical acclaim instead of genuine expression. The internet notices this immediately, dissecting lines for insincerity or cliché. Fans compare older heartfelt tracks to newer attempts, noting a stark drop in authenticity. Music critics have begun framing Post's emotional songs as performative rather than genuine. Emotional appeal in music is tricky, and when misused, it amplifies the perception of corniness. His attempts to be a voice for the disenfranchised or heartbroken often feel like a marketing angle. Even streaming stats can't hide that serious tracks now perform less impressively than catchy, surface-level hits. TikTok and meme culture highlight how awkward some of these serious moments feel. Collaborators admit he sometimes overthinks emotional delivery, resulting in stilted performances. The irony is that his charm once lay in unpolished honesty, not manufactured sentimentality. Attempting to force gravity onto songs that don't earn it only emphasizes the gap between perception and reality. And in doing so, Post Malone risks alienating both casual listeners and longtime fans. Creative originality in decline. Post Malone's early success was tied to originality. He wasn't just making music, he was defining a moment. Today, originality is noticeably in decline. Many recent tracks feel like rehashes of old ideas, either his own or borrowed from trends in pop and hip-hop. The hooks, beats, and vocal effects increasingly follow formulas proven by streaming algorithms rather than intuition. Collaborators often remark that studio sessions feel like checklists instead of creative exploration. Even his social media posts now recycle old aesthetic choices. The same shots, the same vibe, the same empty charisma. Fans notice and comment online, often sarcastically praising the iconic consistency, while meaning the opposite. Music critics point out that originality is the lifeblood of longevity, and Post's over-reliance on past formulas jeopardizes it. Tracks that should feel fresh instead feel like variations of a theme we've all heard before. Even live performances, which once offered room for experimentation, now repeat predictable set lists. When innovation is absent, hype can't fully compensate. Cultural commentators note that his early blend of hip-hop, rock, and pop created a unique identity. Now the identity is muddled and safe. The internet, always ruthless, amplifies this decline, turning it into meme fodder. Even diehard fans admit that his music feels less like exploration and more like repetition. And in a world where attention spans are short and trends fleeting, Declining originality can be fatal to relevance. Public image implosion. Post Malone's public image has taken hits that no amount of streaming numbers can fix. The tattoos, the cowboy hats, the bleached hair, all once iconic, now feel like props in a character he can't maintain. Interviews often show him disengaged, like he's going through the motions rather than connecting with fans. Viral clips of awkward award show moments and festival missteps spread across social media almost daily. TikTok and Twitter turn every facial expression into a meme, every stumble into a punchline. Even casual fans notice the pattern. Post is everywhere, but the magic isn't there. Public gaffes amplify the perception that he's coasting. Red carpet appearances are criticized for looking tired or disengaged. Fans joke about his energy levels on stage, often comparing him unfavorably to other artists with similar profiles. When celebrity antics go viral for the wrong reasons, credibility erodes quickly. Instagram and YouTube amplify every misstep, making small incidents feel like crises. Collaborators admit he sometimes seems distracted or absent-minded during creative work. Attempts to play it cool are often interpreted as laziness. Even longtime supporters notice the discrepancy between persona and performance. The overall effect is clear. The public image that once built him is now partially dismantling him.